Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we have show and tell today.
We have show and tell today. We have two show and tell today.
Two show and tells
So,
today.
so. Hey, welcome to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. I'm Richard.
I'm Noah.
And today we're going to talk about the movie where the great white Komodo dragon attacks the coastal town of Tokyo and consumes all its residents until it is defeated by the Ahab Quint Shishkamama character.
Can you be a little more specific? You just described half of the Godzilla movies out there.
Well, this is
Godzilla Minus One.
which you asked me to go see.
I did ask you to go see.
And I sat down and I watched the movie and we got rolling into it and I said, oh, this is Jaws. And I looked at it, and this is not by any means a criticism, but I looked at it and I said, this is Jaws. Which is Moby Dick. Right? And now, So, I have...
Hold on. If you haven't, we recently did a video on the legendary Godzilla, and he watched those movies. So this was to give him the other side of the ocean's perspective on Godzilla, their take on Godzilla, and what is probably... I'll just put it right out in the beginning. One of the best Godzilla movies ever made.
This one?
This one.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to get out first. Go for it.
Okay. All right. So, well, a warning. Godzilla Minus One is still in theaters. There's going to be spoilers. I'm going to try to avoid them, but there's probably going to be some spoilers. So if you need to pause, run and watch the movie, come back,
you come
watch
back.
it. You know.
We'll be here.
Well, so open up your laptop, pull up our email address, our email, pull up our drive, pull up our photos. There's a photo that I want you to look at.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we have show and tell today.
We have show and tell today. We have two show and tell today.
Two show and tells today.
So I sat down and first of all, I liked the movie. Let's just say this off the bat.
Okay.
The movie had excellent production values. The CG... it was great in some aspects. It was not so great in others. But
you know this. Do you know what the budget of this movie was?
Have no idea.
$15 million.
Oh my goodness! Did they do a lot with $15 million?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. There had to be a whole lot of green screen for $15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this was a green screen movie, and I wondered about that as we were watching it, because there are scenes in post World War II Tokyo, which looks like post-apocalypse Tokyo.
Yeah.
And that might as well
Pull
be
it up on my phone instead because I'm logged out on my laptop.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Technical difficulties. Keep going.
And the level of devastation. First of all, it looked so realistic. I remember thinking to myself, did they create this on a set or is this green screen? It was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and I would never want to live in that level of devastation. But I'm watching this movie and I very quickly realized we're looking at a retelling of Moby Dick, and I was truly amused and entertained by that thought because I mean it's a classic story. But for me, especially being new to the Godzilla franchise, it was refreshing.
Okay.
This was a refreshing look at, because this movie...
I mean, to be fair, we don't enjoy the novel Moby Dick. It's a hard novel to read.
All right, I read Jaws when I was 10 or 11. All right. Mm-hmm. I've tried Moby Dick twice. Oh, golly. Talk about boring. Oh, my goodness.
Jeez.
Anyway, this is primarily a man versus self conflict, this movie. And this is what makes the movie interesting. It is a conflict of a man versus himself.
Yeah, it is.
A kamikaze pilot who chickened out, who saved his life.
Yep.
And because he has kind of I don't want to say he's a coward, but he
He had self-preservation instincts.
He did. And so not only did he not go through with his kamikaze mission, but he failed to act in a way that wouldn't have saved a bunch of people, but because he failed to act, he guaranteed that they died. That they died.
Yes.
And so he has, not only does he have post World War II PTSD, but he's got guilt and shame going along with it. And
a lot of because
do you have the picture pulled up?
I don't see a picture. I see
Go to Google Photos.
Oh, go to Google Photos.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. For PRP?
Yes, for PRP. Comfort me
Yeah.
while we wait.
Who puts stuff on Google Photos?
Well, I thought it would be the easiest way to get it to you to use in the
on Google Drive. Technical difficulties.
Oh, for the love of Pete, just log in.
I did. We're going to.
Anyway,
ahead real quick.
So the conflict with Godzilla is the secondary storyline to this movie. Mm-hmm. This story is all about people, their post-war stresses, living in a devastated Tokyo and trying to make your way through. Just imagine living in a junkyard. That's pretty much what it looked like.
Yep.
And then the man versus the supernatural conflict. This conflict, versus Godzilla, where we don't get any explanation of where the monster comes from, why he's attacking.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't appear to eat people. He plays with his food. He's the ultimate lizard cat. He grabs them and he flings them up in the air the way Gypsy used to with moles in the backyard. And then...
And he doesn't eat them. He leaves the bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what has Godzilla so torqued that he attacks the everything?
Yeah.
We never do find out. And ultimately, the movie is set up for the return of Godzilla in this particular franchise.
In this particular line, if you didn't watch the previous one, I did mention, and I think it's the best comparison. I've said it to several people. They think it's great that the Toho Godzillas are like a James Bond, where they do refresh, restyle, and they're just constantly rebooting, and they're not necessarily all in one timeline.
Okay. Yes.
And apparently that's an apt description, according to people that I've made that comparison to. So. Okay.
So we watched this character. Now, forgive me on the pronunciation.
There's a lot of...
Shishkashima. Wow. Shishkashima? Okay, whatever. Main character. That's his battle. The acting in this movie was fantastic.
It really was.
The actor who played Shishkashima has got a fantastic bio.
Really?
Yeah, apparently he was born with a very rare disease.
Wow.
And he is part of the 1% of the population that survives it.
Wow.
Although the bio that I read didn't say what the disease was, but he did survive it.
Wow.
And then his mom put him into acting, and apparently he's had a stellar career.
Dang. Yeah.
And Akiko.
Yeah,
was adorable. She was adorable.
I don't know how they got
goodness.
that little girl to do all that.
Yeah,
she was. That girl had to be like 4 max.
5 maybe.
5 maybe. She didn't. It wasn't a case of like, remember Violent Night, where the girl was supposed to be like 7 or 8, but she was obviously 12.
Right.
Complete opposite. I believe that this girl was like 2. I wouldn't be surprised if the toddler actually was, if it was a 2 or 3-year-old, and they just dubbed over.
But
oh my gosh.
So my original intro with all the technical difficulties and everything, go back, splash this on the screen. Okay. There is a shot-for-shot comparison between Jaws and this Godzilla.
Yeah.
The wooden boat in the water, the shark coming through. Yep. Okay, the end of Jaws, the shark going through the water with the air canister in his mouth versus Godzilla going through the water with the mine in his mouth.
Yeah.
Shot for shot.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So you've got
I think
this.
They were homaging it. They had to be.
They had to be doing the homage to that because it basically is that story that was being told. I kept waiting for someone to say in Japanese, I think we need a bigger boats.
Yeah.
Really. So, so there unintentional funny moments in the movie for me. Now you and I were sitting like 4 seats away from each other, right?
I couldn't quite get your reaction.
What I was saying,
because you were like 2 people down.
The second picture that you're going to show.
Okay.
Every time I saw Godzilla poking out of the water, it reminded me of Bowser from Mario. And I couldn't get Bowser out of my head the entire time I'm watching this. And so... It was just, those are the moments where the CGI just didn't work, where whoever did the design on that, I'm like, oh my goodness.
I think I know the one you're talking about, where he's coming out of the water and his arms are like this, and he's like, it's like he's flexing on them.
Yeah, exactly. And when he's swimming after the boat in the water and you just see the face from here up, it's got Bowser written all over it. I kept waiting for a red shell to come spinning.
Yeah, right.
So, that I don't know what they were thinking with that. There's this, this scene, what was supposed to be a very heart-wrenching scene inside the home where Noriko is comforting
I think I heard this one.
Shikishima, right?
Yeah.
Where
he's having a PTSD flashback.
His head is wrapped because he's got a head injury. Big bloody spot right here, and she grabs him in a headlock around the head and squeezes him to her chest to comfort him.
On the wounded.
On the wound! And he doesn't react. He doesn't say ouch. He doesn't.
The first time I watched it, same reaction.
Okay.
First time I watched it with a group.
Okay.
Same exact reaction going on.
So I did not for a minute believe that Noriko was dead. Okay.
Yeah,
there's a spoiler. Noriko lives. They make it look like she's impossibly gone. She could never come back from the injuries she would receive. She does actually live, and she's in the hospital, and she's got a broken right arm and her head in bandages. And what's the first thing he does when he goes over to her? He grabs her broken arm.
Yeah.
Jonah and I were sitting next to each other going, go for the arm, go for the arm. He reaches out and he grabs her broken arm, and that's when I started chanting, squeeze the head, because and I don't know if you heard that in the theater or not.
I did not.
I was actually because it was so
that's funny.
Unintentionally funny, but I was chanting funny. Squeeze the head. I'm trying to see.
My unintentionally funny moment.
Yep.
Is the dudes on the roof doing the news report.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just thinking, Hindenburg 2, Electric Boogaloo, let's go.
Yes. Oh,
it was the exact same.
Didn't you have all the humanity running through your mind?
I'm like, this is just. Yes, exactly. Yes, everything and more.
Yes. And they eventually bite the dust because he's whipping his tail around and taking buildings out.
Yeah. Now,
because this is just wicked.
Yeah.
Right here.
The Godzilla Rampage was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Whenever Godzilla was on screen, it was awesome.
His walk was kind of cloddy, lumbersome.
They intentionally were trying to make him look rubber suit ish, while still having him be more animalistic in the water.
Okay.
So if you notice, like, he watches the plane circle as he swims.
Yeah.
He's very much. He's like a cat. He's like a cat stalking his prey. But yeah, no, on land, they definitely wanted him to kind of resemble that a little bit, especially in the texture details of his skin and everything. They wanted him to look more like a rubber suit, like as a callback. But the I don't know, the destruction scenes are just always awesome. not to get away from the core theme, the core messaging and theme of Godzilla, because Godzilla is always used as an allegory a lot of times.
Yes. And
this movie's no exception, because he's been used as a allegory for nuclear weapons. He's been an allegory for in Shin Godzilla specifically, which came out a few years ago. I want to say that was 2016. I think it came out. Mm-hmm. There was the earthquakes in Japan, and a nuclear energy facility was damaged and was leaking radiation. Apparently, Japan's government was slow to respond. I don't know all the details behind it, but they made a Godzilla movie in response to that, where the entire thing is just Japan's government not responding in an adequate time. And It's like, oh, okay, that's some commentary. And of course, this one has the constant theme of them not liking Japan's government post World War II.
Okay, so
which is a lot.
And that's my final point, and yeah, we've got a lot of questions on that.
There's a lot going on there that, I don't know. I don't know how Japan feels about anything. It's a big freaking message being sent, though. There's a lot of survivor's guilt. There's a lot of switch between he initially comes home and everyone's like berating him for being a survivor, and by the end everyone's like, if you survived, that's a good thing. Right. And if you never went to war in the first place, that was a huge line. Huge line. Seeing the vet go, you're lucky, to the kid.
Okay, so hold this thought, because we're going to go down a rabbit hole in a little bit. We're going to go down a rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole actually kind of separates you and me just a little bit, and you'll understand why I say that here. So there's a couple questions. Kind of a predictable ending. The movie could have ended one of two ways. The main character could have lived or died, and whether he lived or died had no bearing on the ending of the movie. Either way, it would have been a good ending to the movie. Yeah.
I think if they had, with the addition of Akiko, he was not going to die. The minute the kid showed up,
right,
and they had the bond.
That was my attempt at not spoiling it. But.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm teasing.
We already gave a spoiler warning. The minute they started setting up that relationship, the dude wasn't in it. Now, the thing I liked, how good's your German, everybody? Because the plane, if you notice, has German writing in it.
I did not, but the plane looked... First of all, the plane looked just like some of the planes that were in Captain America. Yep. Remember the end of that?
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there were experimental prototypes like that plane.
There were.
In World War II. And I think what it was is Germany had sent some supplies over to Japan, along with some experimental tech. But there's a key line in there that we noticed on my first viewing, and it's when the doctor's talking to everyone about, post-World War II, about how the government wasn't supplying them, low supplies, men were starving, kamikaze. He says the line, fighter planes without ejection seats.
I missed that.
He says that in the conference room. And then you see the technician, the repairman, who, fantastic turnaround for character development in like 5 minutes on that mechanic.
Okay.
Notices a sign, and then, which I'm sure if someone translated the German of that sign, it would read something like ejection seat. Okay. Because then he looks where the injection levers are. So if you're paying close enough attention, which my first viewing we all went, it has an ejection seat. Okay. Does he tell him it has an ejection seat?
All right. Okay. So
which was a really cool, if you paid super close attention to the movie, you would get it early. You'd get the spoiler early, but you'd be like, but it's like one of those it doesn't ruin it because you're like, oh, I noticed it, I got it.
So Shishikishima's biggest critic, his harshest critic, is the mechanic Takabana. Yeah. And Takabana is so angry with him that when he comes back into his life a few years later, the first thing he does is physically beat him.
Attack him.
He attacks him, he punches him, he beats him.
Yeah.
I missed in the movie, and I'm not even certain the movie provided it. What was the turnaround for Takabana?
He saw in the fighter plane when he's getting in there and he's like, well, this is it. He pulls out the diary, he pulls out the photos.
Right.
And then he pulls out the drawing.
Okay.
So Takabana sees a dude who's probably, this is how I interpret it. When he first shows up, he sees a dude who's got everything now. He had a girl living with him that loved him. He has a kid, maybe
right.
not his, but he got a kid that he loves. And he had a job, he had nice clothing, he had a house that was fixed and safe, and,
right.
and he was recovering well. And then he gets in the plane, and he's like, I think the mechanic wasn't like fully convinced that this dude was still suffering.
Okay.
The same until he sees the photos.
Okay.
That he
all right.
gave him.
Okay.
And
yeah.
then he realizes, because you haven't seen this dude in like 2 years,
right.
3 years. You see those photos, and you see them in like a diary next to a drawing that his kid gave him.
Yes.
It's like you see the most important things to this man.
Right.
That these photos have been with him the whole time.
Yes.
So that he, in that moment, understands,
okay.
he was...
Right.
He was still suffering. He still suffered the same as I did.
I think on a second or third viewing, I might have picked that up in the theater with everything.
There's so much going on a first viewing.
All right. So,
no, I will say, having watched it a second time, they covered all their bases really well in this movie. Like it's really well done. Like every plot. Okay, the tugboat's coming in at the end. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Okay.
A little cheesy. It's fine. I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide. Just because you had to finish off that kid's storyline.
Ships don't go to port or don't go to sea from port as quickly as they did in this movie.
Yeah.
Tugboats do not get hooked up as quickly as they did in this movie, especially not 27 of them on each ship.
On each ship.
You know. So yeah, there was that whole this is kind of stretching plausibility a bit, but
it's fine. It's fine. Right. If that's a huge complaint, it's fine.
During the planning meeting for the attack on Godzilla, and I could not, I don't have the characters' names down.
Yeah.
Short guy, round glasses. The Doc, right? Okay. Yeah. We'll call him Doc. He was called Doc in the movie.
He was called Doc in the movie, so Doc.
So he's laying out the plan for the citizens' attack force on Godzilla.
Yeah.
And what they're going to do. It was kind of a cretive plan. It was
very good.
Right?
Yeah.
Bound to fail.
Yeah.
It had to fail so that the hero could actually do his work. But they complained, the citizens openly criticized the Japanese government for their cavalier disregard for human life during the war. That the Japanese government just treated their citizens as dispensable. Okay? Mm-hmm. But I found it very interesting that they criticized the generic government.
Yeah.
They did not criticize the emperor, and they did not criticize the military by name.
I'm very curious as to what the...
I'm very curious as to what the post-World War II feelings were about their government and about the emperor and about the military-industrial complex, because what I want to know is, did that criticism in this movie reflect the feelings of 1947 Japan, or was it a perspective of 2024 Japan looking back 70 years in history? That's an important distinction. Because
it is an important distinction.
We frequently take modern sensibilities and apply them to historical events and don't realize that if we grew up in that time, we would have grown up in the same honor code that caused so much guilt for the hero of the story. Yeah. So that was my big question.
Yeah.
Jokes and everything aside, that's what I'd like to know the answer to.
But overall, I need to do this. Another little thing. There's no way in hell that the U.S. government loses 6 ships and then just lets this creature go to be dealt with by Japan. Soviets be damned. the U.S. would be sending the entirety of the Pacific Fleet and the Atlantic Fleet to go take out this thing so they could study it. Are you kidding me? I know. They had to... That's the funny thing about Godzilla movies. They always have to figure out a way for the U.S. or the Russians not to be involved. Because it just means that it means that the fight's over. It means that the fight's over. You get.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
I don't care how devastating this version of Godzilla was. You get an entire fleet against him with the full might of the military. Yeah, he's getting his ass kicked. This version of Godzilla.
Gotcha. Well, and so I would say this. If you have an opportunity to go see Godzilla Minus One in theater, go see it. This is a fun movie. It is in Japanese. It is English subtitles. It was very easy to follow. The acting was fantastic. The costuming was fantastic. The sets were fantastic.
The characters were fantastic.
Oh, very, very well done.
So well done.
Because
so well done.
I think if this is a 2.5 hour movie, I don't think Godzilla gets 30 minutes of screen time. Maybe. This movie was a movie about people. And, I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of all the Godzilla movies, I've seen, 5 now in the last month?
Something like that.
This is my favorite out of all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's probably one of the best Godzilla movies made.
Okay.
So.
All right. So if you've seen Godzilla Minus One, leave your thoughts down below. If you haven't, go see it. Come back and leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe if you want more content like this.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.